must be Thursday. Welcome to Learning Unwrapped, a talk show about your most important life skill, brought to you by International Broadcast Media TV. I'm your host, Dr. Nancy Sulla from IDE Corporation, Innovative Designs for Education. I think I made that name up. You would think I would know it. So exciting to be here today. And it's a really special day because I don't know if you got to see it, but Perseverance landed on the surface of Mars, which is a very big deal. Let's take a look at Perseverance. This is, okay, we don't have Perseverance. There she is. I like to call it a she. This is live feed from, just kidding. We actually won't get any pictures back until, I believe, starting tomorrow, but it's a very big deal to land anything on Mars. Significant radiation going into the atmosphere. So we're going to be looking for some real formers of life from billions of years ago. So that should be fun. But today, our format is going to be a little bit different because we have a fabulous group of what I like to call legends in leadership. These women, 7 of them, are going to be on the show. So my co-host is actually going to be one of them, a woman that I met a million years ago. Well, maybe we're not that old, Adele, but a woman that I met years ago and had the pleasure of partnering with when she was the associate superintendent in the Jersey City school system. She then retired, or as I like to say, pro-tired. And she now is working as an assistant professor in educational leadership at New Jersey City University, and also as the director of curriculum and instruction for NJXL and NJTLC, organizations that are creating future leaders. So please welcome my friend, Adele McCullough.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi,
good
Adele.
to see you.
It's good to see you.
Nice to be with you today. And it's really strange to be called a legend. I know we're old, but
you are a legend. So, well, you'll always be a legend to me, Adele.
And you to me also. So,
I love your background too.
And an idol. Yes.
I said I love your background. You have nice.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thanks. This is my
nice coordination going on. So tell me a little bit about what are the formers, and then I'm going to have you bring everybody in.
The formers are a group of women, 7 of us, who have just come together, either based on our professional associations throughout the decades, because we represent a lot of different years of experience across New Jersey's educational leadership arena. We've served in all different positions in all different parts of the state. And I don't want to say upon retirement from our official positions, because none of us were officially retired. We've just kind of got together socially and professionally and continued to enjoy each other's company and learn from each other and share our knowledge and just our thoughts on what's happening today and how we can still influence what's happening in education. Yeah,
that's awesome. And I know I've met with you guys, and every time I get to meet with you, I am just more amazed. And you're right. We have decades and decades of experience here, guys. So welcome to our live audience. Thank you for being here. If you are watching live, please just put a hello in the chat, join us. And as we are talking, please feel free to put up any comments, any questions. If you have a question for a specific person, please just toss their name in there, because what happens at home, you type in a comment, but we don't get it for another 30 to 60 seconds. So there might be a little bit of a delay. So if you want to address somebody in particular, just put their name in there. All right, Adele, I'm going to let you start bringing in the crowd.
Okay, the only fair way to do this is alphabetically. So I'm going to ask you to let Maria Dare, the former assistant superintendent for the Vineland, New Jersey Public Schools, and also the former executive director of NJASCD, be part of the conversation. So welcome, Marie.
Hi, Marie.
Thank you. Hello.
Nice to see you. How's your weather?
To be a part of this today. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of the formers.
All right. Who we got next to bring in?
Next, we have Barry Ehrlichson, the former assistant commissioner for the New Jersey Department of Education and presently a lecturer at Princeton University, amongst many other roles that she plays.
All right.
Welcome, Barry.
How are you today?
I'm great. This is definitely the brightest spot of my day.
Yay!
The 8 inches of snow is quite a lot.
I'm sure. Adele, who do we have next?
Okay, our next friend and colleague, Joanne Kirkis, is the former assistant superintendent for the South Brunswick Public Schools and presently the regional trainer for Strong and Associates, amongst other things.
All right.
Joanne?
Hi, Joanne. And I've had the pleasure, actually, of consulting for you when you were in South Brunswick.
Absolutely. In the way back.
In the way back, right?
Back. Hi, everybody.
Hi. All right. Adele, who do we have next?
Yeah, next we have Dr. Penelope Latimer, the former assistant commissioner for the New Jersey Department of Ed and chief of staff, and a former assistant superintendent for the New Brunswick Public Schools. And presently, Penelope's resume has a lot of current positions, so including president of a board of trustees for the George Street Playhouse in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
none of
welcome.
you have really been able to retire.
Right.
No, we've all failed retirement.
Yes, you're all pro-tiring. And
Yep.
Penelope, you were on the show with me along with Adele when we did the, and I think with Joanne on that
Joanne.
show, when we did Mark Lee's online dinner party,
Yeah.
Yes.
which is
Yeah.
Wednesday nights at 4:00. Mark Lee does an amazing dinner party, 3 hours long. And you think at first 3 hours is a long time. And then you're like, oh my God, that time flew. But Penelope, you were with me then. And my friend Pam Meistrich was watching and just absolutely loved everything you had to say. So would you give my friend Pam a shout out?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Pam. That's great praise. And I'm so glad that you found meaning in what I was saying. And perhaps one day we will meet face to face. But thank you, Pam. Thank you.
And
Hi.
that means, Penelope, the pressure's on tonight because you better say some good things again.
I guess so.
All right, Adele, we got 2 more people to bring in.
Okay, we have Mary Reese next, a former principal for the Edison Public Schools and the current director of special projects for the New Jersey Principals and Supervisors Association and the Foundation of Educational Administration. So welcome, Mary.
Awesome. Welcome, Mary. It's great to have you here. Oh, Mary, you're muted. You know, that's the watchword of 2020. You're muted.
I know,
Yes.
we can't wait till we not say that anymore.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Perfect day, being with my friends, and the snow is gorgeous. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. And last but not least, because to me, she will always be the grande dame of education.
Right, and I say, again, Willa Spicer, the former Deputy Commissioner for the state of New Jersey's Department of Education. And I say the former everything because she has served in every capacity in education. And yes, a true educational icon. So welcome, Willa.
Thank you. I think I should at least have a shout out to the fact that Nancy,
Hey.
Yeah.
thank you. I think I should at least have a shout out to the fact that Nancy Sulla and I probably go back to the beginning of technology in the state of New Jersey, and that we know the days when there was no technology, and talking about it was an act of courage. So Nancy, it's really good to see you again.
It's great to see you too, Willa. Thanks for being here. All right, so we've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of you. Yep, we're all here. So, so from your years of experience, and what is fabulous is you not only have years of experience, but you also have years of diverse experience across, different venues as leaders. As you think about the legacy you will leave and the assistance you can give to others, what is one piece of advice or insight that you would give to leaders today, whether they're in education or business? What is a piece of advice that you would give to leaders? And I'm just going to go around the group to make it an easy start. And Adele, I'm going to start with you.
Thanks, Nancy. Again, I guess this bit of advice I always gave to the individuals that I worked with would be to do the work and to do really good, high quality work. Because as we know, the work is necessary. It prevails over time, and it sort of connects you to the next years of not just leadership, but implementation. So I would say do great work.
Do great work. Love that. I think that's good for everybody, to really do your best to do great work. Because sometimes you can get so caught up in everything that needs to be done that you kind of forget to stop and think about the work itself.
And just a little bit the same way, stay in one place long enough to know the work and be able to do good work over time. So it's connected.
Yeah, that's a good point in today's world. Barry, what's your piece of advice? Okay, Marie, what's your piece of advice?
I might say be true to yourself. Know what you're able to do and what you want to do, and have a plan to do it. There are wonderful models out there, Willa Spicer or any of the other formers, and learn from them, and then apply it in your particular responsibilities as well.
Hmm.
The advice
That's
I
awesome.
give, the
Go
advice
ahead,
I
Willa.
give you, the advice I give you comes from was not a plan, something that happened to all of us that I don't think we even knew was happening until now. We all stayed in the position that made us the second person in the organization. For some, even, and personally, I certainly was offered a lot of superintendencies, but I didn't leave. I stayed in the second position. And I stayed there because I found that I could do things there that I could not do from the superintendency, and that I was saved. It was like a fence that kept me from getting totally tied up in the politics of the job and not able to concentrate on the content of the job. So if I were you, I'd look carefully at my job before
That's a
I
great
did other things.
That's a great point, and I'm gonna we're gonna talk about that a little bit more because the jump from the second seat to the first seat and why or why not. That's a cool topic. But let me first, before I go down that road, because that's a really good point. Let's continue on and Carrie, our director. You seem to be bringing people in alphabetically, so I'm going to let you bring in the next person. What is your advice? This is like lottery,
Yeah.
So, when I love to climb mountains, and at one point someone sent me this great card that had this picture of like a mountain goat on the top of a mountain, and the caption was, "It's lonely at the top." And as I reflect on leadership, one of the things that strikes me is how at times no one likes you. That you're making decisions that don't necessarily please anybody, and that you have to be ready for that, which is very hard because in human nature, we want to be liked. And so when you make consequential decisions at times, you don't find that warmth, which I think is what drove me and rather drew me to this group of women. Having had the experiences of kind of being alone in positions of leadership and seeking out support from others.
That's great advice because when you're the person to whom everyone else reports, they always say like you really don't have any friends because everybody reports to you. So and you got to be able to thread that, create that balance and yet be willing to make those decisions. Everybody will like you until you make a decision that doesn't go their way, and then suddenly they don't like you. So that is a real challenge, perhaps one of the biggest challenges I think in leadership. So, all right, Carrie, who's next up? Penelope, what advice do you?
Looks like it's me. So mine would be to keep in touch with the learner inside of yourself. To always be willing to learn more, to read. But when we are in touch with how we learn, we'll be more sensitive to the learning opportunities that we provide or we don't provide and how we provide them. And the second is, the second piece, if I might, is for us to really be strong advocates for the virtues of the career path of education, of teaching, that we have to be the front line to remind people that education is the profession that informs all other professions. And it's because of educators that anybody else can do whatever they're doing. So that's me.
That's great. And you heard that when I start the show, I always say it's Learning Unwrapped, a show about your most important life skill. Because if you think about it, if you don't learn, if you can't continue to learn, then what happens? Like there's nothing. Like learning is everything.
Yes.
Who's next? Mary, what advice do you have to leaders today?
Several years ago, I read an article by Toni Morrison, and her quote, "You are not the work you do, You are the person you are.
You are not, say that one more time because you're going in and out. You're not the work you do.
You are the person you are.
You are the person you are.
And in other words, be true to yourself.
Right.
Maintain your integrity and stay honest. The second part of my message would be a lifelong learner, but also a lifelong mentor. There are so many people out there who can benefit from what we all know and do, that we should do this on a regular basis. And I look back upon the amazing mentors I had in my life, both male and female, and they were extraordinarily helpful to me. And I really feel it's our responsibility as leaders to give back.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I would agree. And Joanne, I guess we need to hear from you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I have to keep revising what I'm going to say. You know, one of the things we talk about is that we all have such common ground. And so I could say ditto to everything that came before. But I guess I'll end the series with talking about a lesson I learned early on as a young new leader. And that was to listen through the noise. And it was based on the premise that you will be, as Barry said, you will be making decisions continuously, a good number of them, which will not be popular with all. And there will be noise. And it is how to let that noise sort of flow over you and listen hard and find in the center of the noise that kernel of truth, that place of compromise, where minds can meet. And it takes a lot because you have to keep your back stiff and you have to keep your the outside of yourself calm. But I have used that lesson again and again and again, professionally and personally. Just learn to listen through that noise.
You know, everything, and I think we got to everybody, right? Everything that you're offering as advice. What strikes me is that when I started my career, so I'm 65 now, when I started my career, I was able to, you know, move through and decide what I wanted to do, et cetera. And staying in a job for multiple years was never an issue. As a matter of fact, if on your resume you moved around too much, people didn't like that. Mm-hmm. But today's world, there's this drive almost that you're being pressured that, what do you mean you've been there 3 years? It's too long. You know, there's a pressure to keep moving and changing. And there's also a pressure from a monetary standpoint to try and move up the ladder quickly so that you'll be able to make more money in order to, you know, fund yourself and your dreams and your family. How does that impact? Because what strikes me is a lot of the things that you're bringing up are not things you learn in your first or second year. So, you know, how do we manage for this idea that leaders are trying to move quickly through the ranks? How do we keep ourselves anchored in what's important?
Nancy, I read somewhere or learned somewhere along the line that within each of us, we have cycles of change. And I think part of it is knowing what your cycle is, some sense of when you yourself sort of feel ready and able to make that change and not feel like you're on any set timeline, but get a sense of sort of your inner change cycle. I followed that all the way through. I started with change every 7 years until that didn't matter anymore. And it became every 3 years or every 4 years. But for a while, I just let that cycle sort of lead me.
One of the things I think we all know is that nothing stops. We don't stop learning, no matter if we're in the same spot for 20 years. We're learners. And because we're learners and we're willing to learn from our enemies as well as our friends, we really do not get bored in the jobs we're in. At least none that I know here in this group, it would suggest that his or her career was boring. Lots of things, but it wasn't boring.
Willa, I love that. Learn from our enemies as well as our friends. I have to go down this road with you guys and ask, you're not allowed to say any names, but what is something you have learned from an enemy?
Oh, I learned everything from enemies. I learned very early that if you don't, that's where to listen. If you want to know what's wrong and my work is the place to listen is to the enemies, not to the friends to tell you what you want to hear. And who needs that? You need the enemies to be able to do good work.
Powerful.
Yeah, that's true. Something that was said to me one time was be careful what you say and do, because when the bus comes along the next time, you never know who's driving it. So, I've kept that in mind as a funny kind of reminder that you want to be as balanced as you can be while being authentic. Being authentic is so very important, which was mentioned early on. Knowing yourself well, knowing, I think Marie said it, knowing what you stand for, and being consistent. But in this changing world and in the fast pace, as we've said, of people wanting to to just climb the ladder, sometimes you never know who's going to be driving that bus when it comes back around again.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I always say too, the world of education is so small, you can't afford to piss anybody off. That's my
Yeah, right. But I also want to share something that Willa said to us in one of our meetings way back, and we all now use it as a mantra, and we laugh every time we use it, but we mean it. And the word she said is, you've got to know something. In order to be successful, in order to really make change, to be authentically accomplished, you've got to know something. And so that's kind of the mantra of the formers. And when we have been in situations where we look at each other and it's not going well for the person that we're listening to, and we'll say, got to know something.
But I think that's really apparent in this rush to kind of climb the career ladder. If somebody becomes an educational supervisor, then they want to be a vice principal or assistant principal. Within a year or two, they want to be a principal. And there are unique learnings in each of those positions that scaffold you to do the next job better. And it's that work that you do, when I said earlier about knowing the work, that you bring with you to that next level as experience. And I think for all of us, we spent many years in certain positions that allowed us to learn continually and also do things with what we knew and kind of teach other people and how to bring them along. And so, as Willa said, we didn't get bored in terms of there was always really a lot of different kind of work to do, fueled by some enemies over time. But that's what gets you to know something and be able to do something in that next position. So again, one of the mantras that, Marie can elaborate on a little bit about how this group was formed was we thought we had something to say. We saw that there were an awful lot of people currently possibly in positions that I don't want to say they didn't know much. They didn't know what they didn't know would be a better way to put it. So again, we thought the mentoring piece and just our sharing of our knowledge as a group, and by doing some presentations on content and curriculum instruction and assessment and professional development and teaching and learning, we have a body to offer, and we've tried to be generous with our colleagues who we see in the field today, because we benefited from learning from people who were in positions for a while and were really expert at what they did as well. So again, we're just continuing that legacy to people coming behind us.
Absolutely.
And so how did the formers get started?
Well, I'll speak to that. As executive director of New Jersey ASCD, it was always my prime responsibility to bring high quality professional development to educators across the state. So you've clearly realized by now that these formers have a lot to offer. They're highly successful, they're knowledgeable, they work with purpose, and they're wonderful people to work with. So as we went through our careers, our paths crossed. We were on state committees together, or we led particular initiatives together. And one day we happened to be at NJASA and NJPSA's Women's Leadership Conference. we drew to each other automatically, so we were at the same table. And that was when we all gelled as a group. We looked at each other, knowing each other over time, and saying, this is something maybe we can do as well. And that was our beginning, and we continued.
And I do believe that it started with the 6 of you, because then down the road, you decided you needed a strategic eavesdropper, right? Who's going to talk about that?
Well, I guess I can talk about that.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember, I'm trying to think about how long ago this was now. Was it maybe 2 years ago? I've lost track of time. Time has no meaning.
It was at least maybe longer. Yeah.
So Willa called me and said, Joanne, I have this group that I would love for you to come and meet. I think you would enjoy being with the group, and your job would really just be to sit and sort of listen to us as we talk about our careers and the pathways that we followed, the lessons learned over time, and maybe someone sort of, it was almost like fishbowl. I would sit a little outside the fishbowl and just sort of watch and listen, and then and sort of feed back to the group what I heard them say. And that was all actually in preparation, I think, for a presentation to that women's conference that Marie referenced that was coming up in the next year. And so I had this unique and wonderful opportunity. Nancy, you heard me say when we met a little while ago that I can still remember the day I opened the door and walked into the room in which they were meeting. I can remember the sunlight coming through the windows. I can remember, because Will and I never talked about who was at the table. So I walked in and I saw a few people that I have known and worked with, admired, and followed, and people I knew via reputation. And there was just this intake of breath, because I knew that I was going to be really in the presence of people that I considered to be legacy makers, legendary leaders who had left their mark in education. And oh my gosh, I was going to be able to sit and listen to them and learn from them. And so that was my entree into the group. And that also led us then into the hope for writing of a book. So that as we began to sort of collect our thoughts over time, we would eventually formulate them into some kind of book. We have a lot to say, as you.
Well, I was going to say, are you going to write a book?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
I love it. I can't wait to hear how you will organize, because you're right. You have a lot to say and a lot of great points and a lot to offer to others that are following now in your footsteps or want to. You ought to try something too, where maybe the next time post-COVID, when everybody can get back and out again, and the next time you guys are going out to lunch, see if you can have the restaurant arrange your table and then a circle of chairs behind you in a fishbowl, because I'm already seeing from the comments that there are a lot of people in the audience who would just love to be able to be a part of your group and hang with you. So you're going to need that outer circle so that people can, hey, maybe that's the name of the book,
Yes.
The outer circle is listening.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yes.
So, and Nancy, the work has continued. I mean, when we were talking about being retired, we are certainly not looking at ourselves in the past life. I mean, we all have present avocations and, work situations and nonprofit organizations we support and advocate for. So again, we come together. We had been meeting in person, and then Zoom took over everyone's life, and we haven't missed a beat on Zoom. But I think the work and the networking we do and what we talk about every time we get together really does inform and enlighten, as you just said, another ring of how we is still engaged in everything beyond our former official positions. So it's really exciting to share what people are presently doing as well, and how our group could be considered influencers in each other's work or, life worlds right now.
However,
Absolutely, Adele. I agree wholeheartedly. Adele and I share a physical space when we're not in COVID, and we oftentimes just stop in each other's offices to talk about, new initiatives. In particular, she's been doing a lot of work on this teacher leadership program, and my newest is healing-centered engagement to address ACEs and trauma in schools because of all that's been going on. But our conversations are deeper and richer, I think, because of the relationships that we all have with each other. We know where we are when we come together. We trust each other and we respect each other's opinions. And it just makes us better people, each of us.
Yeah, and the second wing that I would say, where we are very welcoming to one another. So one of the other things that we all share is a love for the arts. Mm-hmm. And so we have taken to sharing at nearly every meeting what we've seen either in theater or in music, dance, and literature about the arts. And then, of course, we are great supporters of New Jersey arts. So we have sold subscriptions to one another and tickets to various galas to support organizations in New Jersey, because supporting the arts is very important to us and very important to our society.
That's awesome. See, I know that connection because I used to own an art gallery, and I think that connection of education, learning, and just drawing in all of the arts are so important. Life is an art, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well,
Mary,
that's
were
true.
you going to say something? Marie was going to say something.
Yeah, so I was just going to say that this outer circle who might surround us when we're having any kind of a get-together might like to know that we usually meet for about 2 hours, whether it's a Zoom meeting or it's in person. And for the first hour, we all just share the experiences we've been having. And as others have said, it might be a book read, or it might be a show scene, or it might be an exercise, whatever. We all talk at once and nobody listens. So someone along about an hour into this conversation will say, folks, I think we're supposed to be talking about this particular topic on a presentation that we're going to make. And that's how we segue from who we are and sharing personal experiences into the work that we love and want to do.
Well, I have to say, I'm extremely impressed at how well you speak together as a group and even don't, talk all over one another in this session. It's pretty impressive. Now, I have about 100 more questions to ask, but it is time for me to take my break for what's in your mug. And I will start by saying this is a mug that was given to me by a friend when the show first started. And first I'll share what's in my mug, because in case y'all don't know, today is in the United States National Wine Drinking Day. So I have an amazing Bordeaux in here. And in terms of what's on my mug, I have to say that I'm actually drinking out of 7 mugs that have all appeared on the show. I call them the formers. All right, Adele, let's get your mug.
Very nice.
My mug says a hug and a mug, because even though we're apart and on Zoom, that's what I'm sending all of my friends and colleagues virtually tonight. So right now I have good old New Jersey water in it, and I'm saving the wine for when we can celebrate and see each other again in person and clink glasses. So, and you know what, Nancy, we have to talk about how the formers got coined, because people started to call us the formers. We didn't call ourselves that. So now that's kind of the way we call ourselves also.
All right, so you're going to start that up after we get the mug sharing in. Mm-hmm. All right, Marie, what's in your mug?
Well, I have a mug from the Art Institute of Chicago, and what's
Hold
inside
that up a little higher. Hold it up so we can see it.
Okay, so what's inside my mug is a very warm memory of this visit. I took my sister to Chicago with me to an ASCD conference. And the first place we went was to the beautiful and architectural Art Institute of Chicago. When we first walked in, at the top of the steps was the painting by Calabata, which is Paris in the Rain. And it was wall to wall, ceiling to floor. It was magnificent. So I have only water inside the mug, but the memory that comes with it is very special.
I
So
love that.
you.
I love that. Erica Kapoor, I see you're having a boring pre-workout smoothie. Yes, audience, tell us what's in your mug. All right. What is in your mug, Barry?
So I have dozens and dozens of mugs. And when I was in the department, people brought me mugs.
You know, you could have a talk show.
Yeah. And so today I thought I'd be really kind of off the wall and bring my blank mug. I have been on a quest most of my life for the mug that fits my hand and feels really good. And this is it. This is this mug. And I feel a little bit like how I feel when I see a blank whiteboard or my car has a tank of gas. Like there's possibility in that space. So, and I have Earl Grey, and I'll probably regret drinking caffeine this late at night.
We'll stay up all night and talk after the show. Joanne, what's in your mug?
Well, like Barry, I probably have about 50 years worth of a collection of mugs. They're my husband's and my collection. They're from all the places we've been, things we've done, mugs that just piqued our interest. And so we have this sort of thing that every day, we're coffee drinkers, and every day before we had our cup of coffee, we would pick the mug that best represented how we were feeling that day. So I'm holding up the mug that was most often chosen. It's a Gary Larson cartoon. It's got a devil, trying to turn it so you can see it. It's got a devil, and there's a guy standing before two doors. One says, "Damned if you do," and the other says, "Damned if you don't." The saying is, come on, come on. It's either one or the other. And Bill and I would usually wrangle over who was going to get this mug. We were both administrators for a long time, and so we felt that way on many a day. But what I would tell you is the mug I'm going to hold up tonight is my latest, very favorite. It's me with my two granddaughters. It was taken 1 year ago. It makes me feel calm. It reminds me of easier times. And it's usually filled with warm coffee, but tonight it's filled with Diet Coke.
All right. That's a great mug. That's a great mug. And I see Dave Allenbach, who is a principal, is drinking Johnny Black and club soda. Way to go, Dave.
Good.
What's in your mug?
Good.
Well, hello. So I am saluting my alma mater, Montclair State. I can still sing "Beneath New Jersey's Skies of Blue" in Montclair's mountain town. There stands our college tried and true and growing in renown. But I am forever grateful for the education that I got at Montclair. I have 2 degrees, my bachelor's in French and Spanish teaching, and my master's degree, student personnel services from Montclair. And in my mug, I don't know, these formers are not that good, folks who are listening and watching us. I have bourbon in mine, and that's what they would be drinking.
Penelope. I love bourbon.
Yes.
Southern Gold. Mary, what's in your mug?
I'm surprised you're still standing, Penelope, if you've been drinking that since we've been together.
5:45.
Yes. Small sip.
Well, I also I serve as our local environmental commission chair and the chair of our local version of Sustainable Jersey. And one of the things we did was we had no chamber or business association in my town. So we started a Shop Local campaign. And that's become a business association over the past 10 years. So shopping local is very important to me. And my mug is an original piece of pottery by a local person, John Chet. Our house has a lot of other pieces of his work, but it's a really party mug. It feels good in your hand. And I feel very good about the fact that it's from someone local. And I have organic green tea. I'm very sorry.
All right,
Penelope, Tanya says you're her spirit animal.
Yes, thank you, Tanya.
Willa, what is in your mug?
well, there's not much in my mug, but I have to tell you one thing before I show you the mug itself. When I was a child, I was the first of 3 children, and I still remember over and over again people saying to my parents, "Who's your favorite child?" And they would always say, "Oh, we love them all." And I thought to myself, what I really want to be is an only child. Well, I have a mug here that says my favorite grandmother. So I finally made it. I'm the favorite grandmother because there aren't any other grandmothers. And so it's the way to become number 1. And I have found it. And what's in it is, what was in it was just plain water. But now I found out, as soon as I found out it was National Wine Week or month or whatever the hell it is, I went out and got a little wine or something to put in it because I would feel very bad about it.
Now, Willa, it's only National Wine Day. Don't start making that up now.
Excuse me, I'm pretty fast.
But Willa, tell them what your favorite drink is, though. Forget about wine. What do you really like to drink?
What I really
When
like
you would go outside and you're with
Tell
your
that-
group.
Well,
Tell that story.
I have
He's a driveway drinker.
I'm here in an old people's home. None of the rest of you have left the house, but I have a well, I guess Penelope, you're kind of the same, except
Yes.
I have a full care kind of thing. And my neighbor is 91, and she is a brilliant woman. She's an author and a scholar, and she, as well as 4 or 5 other of these women that are over 80, have a drinking group. We drink in the driveway because there's another place for us to drink outside right now. So we have a driveway drinking group. My favorite drinking is a little wine, just a little wine in the driveway. And that
Way
seems
to
to be
go.
a good thing. Yeah.
And what about your favorite scotch, though?
Yeah, I was going to say, what happened to the Scotch?
Yeah, come on.
I have a full bottle of Glenfiddich here, and I drink that. I watch. I thought about it today. I should have opened it. I think it's right over there. I might get some after I talk to all of you. I got a big glass of Glenfiddich, and I'll enjoy it.
Sounds like a good thing to do.
Yeah.
Glenfiddich. I'm a little bit of an Oban girl, so in the Scotch area. But
Yeah.
all right. So I think, did we get everybody's mug?
We did.
Awesome. Adele, what do you want to kick off with? There were a couple of points you brought up.
Well, I think it piggybacks on Willa's driveway drinker story. I think the former title really took hold. Our only social outing all year during COVID was Willa invited us all to an in-person birthday tea that she was having back in September. And since COVID, the event was outside with different groups of ladies sitting at different tables in a very lovely restaurant garden setting. And that's how we learned about the group called the Driveway Drinkers. There was another group called the Book Club, and we became the Formers. So if it wasn't official before that, it sort of became anointed at that event. So again, Nancy, when we were talking about this show, then you picked up on it, and it seems to have taken, more solidifying of ourselves calling, because in our book, like if we made appointments and meetings, I used to write breakfast with Willa, Barry, Marie, Mary, Joanne, and blah, 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 everybody. And now I just write breakfast, the Formers. So it's really taken hold.
It's perfect. And at least I know now that Willa, when I have you on a future show, I'm going to introduce you as the former Deputy Commissioner of Education of the state of New Jersey. and driveway drinker.
But Nancy, the driveway drinkers were all senior than Willa. I mean, her neighbors.
Oh, yeah.
90 plus.
95, 96, they were all there, and they looked a lot better than us.
Well, to solidify the point we're making tonight is that there's a lot to learn from the legends who walked before you.
That's right.
So,
Along those lines, at Willa's party, and we celebrated Willa's 85th, she paid homage to one of her neighbors who had turned 100 in March. And she had 3 100 birthday parties that were canceled because of COVID. So here, this wonderful woman, Rosalie, who looked younger than all of us, turned 100.
That's right.
And Willa made sure that she had the spotlight at Willa's party.
that's great.
She did look younger than all of us, though.
That's true.
I think it was from all the driveway drinking. And actually, Principal Mary Ellen Griffin has put up there, she'd like to be in the outer circle of the driveway drinkers. Forget that. So I want to pick up on something you had also said, Adele, which is, it's you all are legends in the state of New Jersey education and beyond the state, but you are continuing to engage now, and most of you are still working in various and sundry capacities. So share a little about what are you doing these days. Talk a little bit about the organizations you're currently working with and what they're doing.
Well, I presently teach at New Jersey City University in their Ed Leadership Department, and as Mary said earlier, I work with NJPSA, the Principal and Supervisors Association, in their Excel program, which is the non-traditional principal preparation program. So again, I think everybody can kind of quickly talk about what they're presently doing. But one of the things I was going to kind of segue back to or forward with was that we don't just talk about ourselves and what we've done. That's probably not even on the agenda anytime. We really still keep our finger on the pulse of what's going on with the Department of Ed, with national issues that are influencing not just education, but life. I mean, we really talk about, the persistent challenges and the enduring issues and the hard decisions that, were made and how those could, lead into decisions about schools now enduring during the pandemic. So, because as you said, we all have networks that we talk to and colleagues that we talk with that we continue to learn from and we share with. So I think that's important to keep our finger on the pulse of, really important things that are going on in the field right now. So
absolutely. I think, first of all, I have the honor of teaching in the programs that Adele facilitates and manages at NJPSA and in the NJ Excel program. And so that's lovely because I'm in constant contact with aspiring administrators and aspiring teacher leaders. And I also teach at Princeton. But the piece of this that's kind of interesting is the way in which we come together and we discuss sort of the current challenges in front of schools, and then leave kind of better equipped to work with the people that we're working with. And so, I still have active touch points with schools and charter schools. And so thinking, as well as being a part of some steering committees across the state. So being able to sort of bring the current challenges and be informed by all of the previous history makes you feel like, these aren't necessary, although this is the new challenge. Our schools have faced challenges before. And so that's really kind of a special way of being informed by each other. And before I get, I just want to say that while Joanne is a strategic eavesdropper, one of the most amazing things that she does is she makes us all sound smarter. Because you come in and bumble around and sort of get, talk all over an issue. And then Joanne says, "Oh, you said this." And it's like, yes, that is. Thank you that you've brought it all together in this really concise, brilliant statement that never came out of my mouth, but I wish had.
Joanne, you're a synthesizer.
Yes.
Yeah, and Joanne always has wonderful ways of, again, closing. Joanne did a part of a presentation we all did together, and she talked about change and talked about unexpected change and unanticipated change. And Joanne, I think you can elaborate a lot more, but it brought everything that we all said in our component parts together. But because, as Nancy, I guess you said earlier, nobody is ever standing still. Everything is always changing.
Yeah.
So, Joanne?
Yeah. No, I think that's true. And I think, you know, in the work that I currently do, I train administrators throughout the state of New Jersey on the teacher evaluation system. And so, of course, that's ever changing. But I listen so closely when I'm at this particular table, because there are always things I take with me and incorporate them into what I do next. I might do a workshop in the week that follows the time that we're together, and there's learnings I'm carrying forward because of having been with this group. I always envision it as, you know, we each have our own legacy. Nancy, you asked us, I think last week when we chatted, you know, what's your legacy? What do you think your legacy is? And I envision us when we come together, trusting one another enough to connect our legacies. Penelope calls that our connective tissue. I think it's trusting one another to let your legacies overlap, trust enough that we put them into gentle hands, and that those gentle hands will do with that information or the topics that we have talked about. We'll handle them gently and take them and use them elsewhere. It's just I just think we're enriched by one another. But I do think we trust enough to connect our legacies.
I wanted to go back to something Adele said about collaboration. I think that's something that all of us do. We do it with each other, but we also do it in whatever work we do. We do not work alone. We aren't isolated by any means. Like, for instance, I mentioned this healing-centered engagement work I'm doing. It's as a result of the pandemic and the mental health issues that we're seeing in schools with the adults as well as the students. And we've been fortunate to bring together a group of funders from private funding, the New Jersey Pandemic Fund, but it's still the matter of collaborating. And as Adele said, we always work with the New Jersey Department of Education. I have another project, Early Childhood Leadership, and the Division of Early Childhood is a partner with us in this work. And each of us can say the same thing. We don't work on our own. We don't work in isolation. We look for the quality people out there on a particular topic and draw them in. And I think we model this with each other as well.
Yeah. We also.
So for me, Willa,
No,
go
that's
ahead.
okay. No, go ahead.
For me, mine is in two buckets. I'm doing a little bit of work facilitating meetings and doing some training for the New Jersey School Boards Association. And my work is particularly targeted to new school board members for their orientation. And then I'm on a number of boards where I'm a volunteer. So, and three of these boards are arts boards. Arts Ed Now, which Mary Reese is the president or the chair of that board, and that's making marvelous inroads in integrating the arts in our school systems. But then I'm president of the board of George Street Playhouse and on the board for Grounds for Sculpture, and on the board for Children's Specialized Hospital and Parker Homes for the Aged. Now, with each of those boards, my role is really has been to take a look at these issues that are so on the tongue of everybody these days, and that's equity, diversity, and inclusion. Yes. For the two arts organizations, I'm particularly proud of the progress that they've made at George Street Playhouse and at Grounds for Sculpture, and recognizing the importance of inclusion. and the importance of equity, of the diversification of the arts that we are presenting in our state. So I spend a lot of time giving service to the arts. It's so central to my beliefs and I think to our culture.
Yeah, it's critical.
So.
Willa, yes. And Willa, it's getting dark in your room.
Well, I know
Yes.
it is. It's very dark in my room.
You look,
but it brings you up more.
There's a beautiful silhouette of, yes.
Yeah,
That's it. I could make it dark now. Okay, dark.
But when you log off, you need to call someone to put the lights on before you get up.
Yes, that's true, because I like you're near the lights. As soon as I get up, I wasn't good. I just was going to remind everybody, because we often forget it, that a lot of the work that we do is because we know people who may not have agreed with us at the beginning and are willing to argue with us or fight with us. I have to re-emphasize how important that is to our future, to be able to talk to people who disagree and be able to work with them, because that's where the answers are. And it's very, very difficult for many of us to move from being good friends, because we are good friends, to being also good arguers, good differentiation. Someone has these words, where they ever came from, I don't know. But to learn from the ones that we think we disagree with, to learn what is really different, and we've done that. We talk about that. We let our enemies speak.
I love that. Early in my career as a consultant, and that's when, and you remember, Willa, I really began my consulting career with infusing technology.
Yes,
and I was doing a lot of technology work in a district. But I started to shift to talk about what I called the 4-computer classroom back in the 80s. What if we put 4 computers in a classroom?
Yes.
What impact would it have? And I designed the Learner Active Technology Infused Classroom. So I was running this workshop and specifically said, this is not about technology. It's about teaching in a technology infused environment. And this teacher was a 2nd grade teacher for most of her career, loved it. And they moved her into 4th grade, where they were putting 4 computers in every classroom. And she was miserable. She didn't know about computers. She was cranky. She was moving, And so somebody said to her, oh, take one of Nancy Sulla's courses. She knows a lot about technology. Anyway, she took my course, and it had nothing to do with technology. And every day, in every session, she would be badgering me with questions and criticisms. And I kept saying, but this course isn't about technology. And she kept saying, but I thought I was going to learn technology. And then I'm like reading. So the course description says, well, in the end, when they all had to fill out, the forms, and you filled out from 1 to 5, what did you think of the speaker, et cetera. She gave me a 0 across the board. Like, there wasn't even a 0 on the list, But, total 0. And she said, this woman obviously never taught, which was not true. But I just felt like I need to get into her head and find out where she's at. And I think it goes back to empathy. Can we look at people who have a different opinion, and can we see them through the eyes of empathy, through the lens of empathy, where we see, well, what are they experiencing? Over time, she became one of the best learner active classroom teachers I ever saw. She was amazing. We even had her, she was filmed, some I forget which group came out to film my work. And she said on camera, if they ever told me that I couldn't teach this way, I would have to retire. And I remember when she did retire, I sent her flowers and I said, thanks for making me a better consultant, because of that very reason that you brought up, Willa. So thank you for pointing that out.
Oh, yes. There are major books. Our industry does not read the major books coming out of the schools of business. One after another point out the importance of getting into understanding people who are different. And these books are very interesting, and I keep hoping that one of these days, when I'm older and more experienced, I'll convince business school, the education schools to start using some of the business literature, because I don't think we teach things like that.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. And we read in my company at IDE, we read a book a month and discuss its implications for our work. And we often read business books. And I hadn't thought about it before, but you're right, Willa. I mean, you get a whole different perspective when you're reading business books and applying them to the world of education.
Yes.
So I can't believe it is 6 o'clock. I know that we have ASCD coming up in June. We're a sponsor, so we're going to be involved. But I believe the formers are presenting, aren't you?
Yes, we are. We are presenting as a group of educational leaders, and in terms of lessons we've learned that we want to share with other educators. So our topic is issues in leadership that shape legacy. And ASCD is happy to host us. And we will be presenting on June 23rd from 11 to 12 o'clock, which is the first day of their annual conference. So I would invite you to register and to attend. It's a marvelous program. ASCD does wonderful, wonderful things.
They do. They do. So you've heard it here, people. Make sure you get signed up. And I'm going to ask, this is such an esteemed group. I am humbled in your presence. I love the work that you have done. I have had the pleasure of getting to be a consultant, and my company is consulted for you. So I'm going to ask Carrie to bring you up one at a time so I can say so long until I see you backstage. And then I'm also going to ask Carrie, when you bring each person up, to put their Twitter handle up again. I encourage you all at home to follow these women, except maybe Penelope, who doesn't tweet. But I told her that she has to start.
I'll respond.
Okay, so Penelope,
next year.
Thank you for being on the show. I look forward to having you back.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
I'll see you backstage.
Thank you.
All right. And I know, I'm like, which order are we bringing them up in? Barry, thank you for being here. I hope you had a good time.
Thank you.
Did you enjoy it?
I did. Thank you so much.
It's a lot of fun, and you guys are such a great group. So thank you for being here. You've got Barry's contact information on Twitter, and Barry does tweet.
I do.
Marie.
It was such a pleasure to be with you tonight. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
It's always great to be with the formers again. Greetings to each of you.
And you've got there the Twitter handle for New Jersey ASCD, so you can follow what Marie has up her sleeve over there, right?
That's right.
All right. Thank you, Marie. I'll see you backstage. Willa.
Is there rules about how I get backstage?
No. Good to know. The director is just going to suck you back.
Oh, good.
And then what'll happen is, for a couple of minutes, you're going to keep watching the show, but you're not going to see the rest of us. You're only going to see what's on the show. And then we're all going to come back again afterwards to start drinking wine.
But
or in your case, scotch. Thank you, Willa.
Get prepared. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for being here.
It's been such a pleasure. And I think we could have gone on for at least another hour with all the stories that we have to tell. So thanks very much, Nancy.
I think we need to have you guys back, although I was thinking the Formers Part 2, but we might just want to call it the Driveway Drinkers of New Jersey.
I'll have to call my friends, make sure it's okay.
Always good to see you again. Thank you for bringing our work into South Brunswick back in the day, because actually Willa brought our work into South Brunswick when we were doing PBL 100 years ago, and then you had brought us back in.
Right, and that's how I met you a million years ago, and then I had the opportunity to reconnect with you, and it's been a pleasure to be with you again, Nancy. I love being with the formers. But I see them every couple of weeks. I look forward to that. I've had time to get together, but you are a kindred spirit. You are just a wonderful friend, and thank you for having us.
Well, I want to come and be in that outer circle, the non-strategic eavesdroppers.
Yes, absolutely.
And who else did I not say goodbye to? My co-host, right? Where's my co-host?
There she is.
I'm here.
Thank you, Adele, for being my co-host and bringing the formers to this show tonight. I so appreciate it.
No, thank you so much, Nancy. Again, even though you're afar, through the years, we've all reconnected, and it's just great to have really wonderful friends like you. And you know what? This show is a tribute to you and the work that you do, not just having us tonight, but I've been watching every week, mostly since you've had the show, and the array of educators and leaders that you've had on has really been terrific to watch in terms of getting accurate content, creative thinking out there. So congratulations on the show. Well done.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, thanks for being here, and I'll see you backstage. Carrie, who do I have left? Who have I not said goodbye to? Okay, I guess I've said goodbye to everyone. I hope I did. Love the formers. The formers are just amazing. I would like to say before we end that I think we all want to make sure that we're putting some energy and prayers out to what is going on around the country with the weather, particularly in places like Texas, where they're having some significant issues. So please put out that energy, say some prayers. I have a group that has a prayer vigil every night, so we'll be continuing to put out good thoughts to everybody. We actually pray all different prayers from all different religions. It's just a way of bringing the good, positive, healing energy together. So, put some energy out there. I hope you will join me next week when we start to get ready for Women's History Month with our show, Breaking Glass, Women in History. And as always, the kids of IDE are going to send us off here, and they're going to start with a tribute to the real formers who roamed the earth before we were even here. See you next week.
A brontosaurus. An ankylosaurus. A triceratops. A brachiosaurus.
Formers like Mary Blair leave a lasting legacy. She was one of the first Disney artists ever. If you know Small World, you know how amazing her work is.
Sometimes I do them by starting with the egg, because then you can build the inside. See you later, guys. Bye. Thanks for watching Learning Unwrapped. Tune in next week to talk about Breaking Glass, Women in History. Are they really breaking glass?